Archery is a sport in which skill is paramount. And to obtain any degree of excellence in the sport, every arrow must be shot the same way as the one before. The sport requires skill, consistency, and practice. Success in archery lies in the ability to do the same thing the same way every time. That doesn't mean that you have to copy exactly the technique of another archer, because archery is a very personalized sport. The physical build, bone structure, nervous system, and reflexes of each archer are different, all of which, when put together, determine the individual style of shooting which gets the best results. But there are 10 basic steps which all need to master, and each of them has a direct bearing on whether an arrow will fly straight and true each time and every time. These fundamental steps are the stance, the bow hand and arm, nocking the arrow, the drawing hand, the pre-draw and draw, the anchor, holding and aiming, releasing, the follow-through, and relaxing. Step 1. The stance begins with shoulders in line with the target and with feet straddling the shooting line. It's important to choose a comfortable stance with your body erect and the weight evenly distributed on both feet. Be comfortable, with feet about the same distance apart as the width of the shoulders, about 300 to 400 millimeters. Take the weight evenly on both feet. If the feet are too far apart, tension will develop in the upper legs, leading to body wobbles and inaccuracies when you shoot the arrow. Archers with a right eye dominance, that is those who use their right eye to sight a distant object, take a position on the shooting line with the left arm extended towards the target. There are 2 basic positions for the feet in relation to the target and the shooting line. The square stance is recommended for most archers, as it brings into one line the feet, the hips, the shoulders, and the arms. With the open stance, the body has to be pivoted from the waist until the shoulders are lined up with the target. Try to avoid the closed stance, because this can rotate your shoulder and left arm into the part of the string when it's released. If you're a female, have a well-developed chest, or have big arms, you may find that a square stance doesn't allow the string to clear your body or arm safely. If this happens, you may have to make an adjustment to the open stance to ensure string clearance. When you've chosen your stance, mark the position of the tip of each shoe with a small stone, a golf tee, chalk or tape. A ground quiver makes a good marker for the position of the back foot. Right, feet in position, shoulders and hips in line with the target. If you have difficulty in getting your head into the correct position, start with your body in the proper erect position, but look straight ahead, perhaps at the person beside you on the shooting line. Focus on the spot that's level with your eyes, then slowly swivel your head to the left to look at your target. The important point to remember is that the feet should always be in the same position for each shot. That's the first lesson in the all-important consistency which helps to develop an archer's skills. The second important step is the bow hand and arm. If you're right eye dominant, hold the bow in your left hand, loosely. Don't grip it tightly. Gripping isn't necessary, as you'll find during shooting that the tension of the string will hold the bow against the base of the thumb. The bow will tend to jump when the arrow is shot, but this can be corrected by increasing a loose grip after the arrow release, or by the use of a finger or wrist sling. The fingers and thumb should hold the bow lightly and not exert any pressure on the sides or the back of the bow. The idea is to position the hand in such a way that the bow will always be placed perfectly upright for the shot, and at the same time avoid tension in the hand that can cause the bow to tilt up or down or make the bow swing sideways. let the bow find its own position in a loose V hold. It's extremely important that it's placed in exactly the same position for each shot, an extension of your outstretched forearm. This is the heel of the hand. It should never be allowed to press on the bow grip. This is where the pressure of the bow should be taken. With a loose grip of the bow, you now extend the bow arm straight out towards the target, locking all the bones in line from the wrist to the shoulder. Now, tilt the fingers down slightly. In this position, some people find that the elbow naturally juts out, and that can mean ouch when the arrow is released. To get maximum string clearance and to minimize the chance of a whack with the string, the elbow is rotated down and out. Down and out. The bow, of course, remains perfectly upright by making a slight twist of the wrist at the same time. You'll find that the bow hand, and the bow arm are in the correct position when the knuckle of the first finger and the middle joint of the thumb are level and parallel to the ground. The third step is knocking the arrow. Right-eye dominant archers will place the arrow on the left-hand side of their bow. When knocking the arrow, the bow is held in a vertical position with the palm of the hand down and the bowstring against the inside of the arm. Take an arrow and study the nock, the slitted end of the arrow which the string fits into. Hold the arrow by the crest, just below the feather-shaped veins, with the thumb and forefinger of the right hand. Lay the arrow across the bow at the arrow rest. Now, revolve the shaft until you find the cock feather at a right angle to the slit in the nock. You'll notice that the other two feathers are at different angles to the nock. If you don't get this right, the feather can be torn off by the bow when the arrow is released. Now, move the arrow forward until the nock just passes over the string. Then pull it back so that the bow string enters the nock at the knocking point on the string. Draw the arrow back until a slight pressure is exerted against the string at the knocking point, the point on the string which is built up so that the arrow nock fits snugly. The knocking point also ensures that the arrow will be placed at the same position on the string for every shot. Another important point in remembering that every shot should be the same as the one before and the one to come. Next, the fourth step is the drawing hand. The string is drawn with the first three fingers, never the little finger, which, like the thumb, should be relaxed and pointing in towards the palm of the hand. The arrow nock fits between the first and second fingers, with the string cutting across the second and third fingers in line with the first crease. Don't attempt to turn the hand on an angle so that the string also fits into the crease of the first finger, just into the creases of the second and third fingers. The fingers should be formed into a right angle to the hand and wrist line at this preparatory stage of the draw. Check that the forearm and the back of the hand up to the first joint past the knuckle are in a straight line. The fifth step is the pre-draw and draw. In one fluid movement, raise the bow, bringing it to a vertical position in a positive manner. Extend the bow arm, aiming at the target. Check this position, then begin to draw the arrow and string back to an anchor point at the jawline. It's not the arm alone that does the work, but a combination of the muscles of the upper right arm, the shoulder, and the shoulder blades. The shoulder blades have to be kept down and squeezed together behind you. Don't twist your hips. Keep them in line with the target during the draw. When you reach the anchor point, there should be a straight line from the tip of the arrow through your shoulders to the tip of your right elbow. The draw begins when the bow arm is raised from the knocking position, fully extended, and aligned with the target. Make sure that the string comes to your head, which is rigid and erect, rather than reaching out to meet the string. Make the bow fit your erect posture, not the reverse. Don't push against the bow. From the moment the draw begins, you will feel the pressure against your hand. You will feel instinctively now that there is no need to choke the bow or even grip it, for everything the bow is pushing against is firm and steady. The hand up through the left arm into the shoulder via the extended elbow, the shoulder itself locked against the body steady because your feet are still placed in a nicely balanced position. Remember the fingers of your string hand. Get them curled around the string, relaxed like talons, and avoid squeezing them into the palm of the hand, as this will cause the arrow to fall off the arrow wrist. All through the draw, confirm that the bow is pushing against the correct spot on your bow hand. Check the drawing hand to see if the fingers are still at right angles to the string, and that the back of your hand is still flat and relaxed. Bring the back elbow up in line with the arrow. Now, get your head into the correct position until you see the string in relation to the bow. At the beginning of the draw, it will be sharp and clear. At full draw, it will become a blur. The sixth step is the anchor, the position which locks in the arrow at full draw and becomes in effect the rear sight. A consistent anchor is vital, as it determines the trajectory of the arrow. Even the slightest variation will cause wild fluctuations in the arrow's flight, so it's important to get the anchor fixed at the beginning of your tuition and to remember it each time you draw. The correct anchor is the jaw line, with the right index finger placed firmly under the edge of the jaw in the centre of the jaw line, and the string touching the tip of the nose and the centre of your chin. The thumb is tucked under the jaw, out of the way. Every time you anchor, you must have the feeling that it's in the same spot, with the same amount of pressure applied to the jaw. While it's important to relax the thumb and little finger, it's equally important to maintain the tension between the shoulder blades. Relax the shoulder blades, and the arrow will creep forward while you're aiming and drop low when shot. This anchor is called the low or chin anchor. It's the preferred style when the shooter has a sighting aid, and it's the anchor you should perfect if you're taking the sport seriously. Without a sighting aid, archers use the instinctive high or side anchor. In this position, the anchor will be higher, with the index finger anchored near the corner of the mouth, touching the position of the eye tooth. The high anchor allows you to position the sighting eye, the right eye, directly over the arrow, so that the line of sight and the line of flight are similar. With a bow sight, even a simple pin, errors in the flight path can be corrected by moving the pin in the direction of the arrow. Up when the arrow hits above the gold, down when the arrow hits below the gold. In both methods, however, there is one thing in common. The lips must be shut, with the back teeth touching, because the closed mouth provides a constant fixed position for the anchor. Now we come to step 7, which is holding and aiming. The final act before the arrow is released. At full draw, the archer has to hold the position until there is no movement in the bow at the moment of release. It takes some effort to maintain full draw, so that the arrow doesn't creep forward before the release. String alignment, another aid to consistency for an archer, occurs at this point. At full draw, align the string with the sight pin and maintain this position of string alignment each time you shoot. There are two main types of aiming, POA and line of sight. To aim without a bow sight is a matter of trial and error, of judgment to find a relation between the arrow tip and the target. The direction of the arrow is calculated by line of sight once the archer is in the holding position. The shooting eye, of course, is always open. Aiming can't be rushed. A minimum of 5 seconds at the draw position is required for the archer to mentally check all the preparation points, to steady the body and the bow, to aim, and then release. The release of the arrow is step 8 and occurs when all elements of sighting are coordinated. In the live release, the arrow is released at full draw by continuing the backward or squeezing movement of the shoulder blades. The string, already up against the nose and chin, can't go any further, and the continuing action of the draw will pull the fingers off the string. The uncurling fingers will release the arrow and should be allowed to move lightly backwards, in contact with the side of the neck. The fingers should not be allowed to move outward and away from the face. There is no need for a conscious action to pull the hand back after the release, as this will be achieved by the continuing pressure of the shoulder and back muscles. After release, the next step is the follow-through. Here the archer maintains the shoulder blades together and the left arm extended for a few seconds, long enough for the arrow to fly free and hit the target, and for you to evaluate the shot. In this important follow-through period, maintenance of the draw position will help to eliminate potential errors at the moment of release. It provides the time for your mental checklist of the shot and discovery of any errors, from the stance to the release, so that they won't be repeated on the next arrow. Step 10.